Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Humboldt County Growers Alliance Industry Affairs Call. Humboldt County Growers Alliance, our mission is to preserve, protect, and enhance Humboldt County's world-renowned cannabis industry. We represent over 275 licensed cannabis operators within Humboldt County of all license types, so cultivation, manufacturing, testing, retail, and distribution. Our members live throughout the county, but many live within Arcata and Eureka, so are voting residents. And many own businesses within Eureka and Arcata. So we're particularly interested in what our candidates have to bring to the table. For Arcata members today, we are joined by Stacy Atkins Salazar, if you can wave. Awesome. And Orion Peterson Jones. Nick Matthews, Kimberly White, hi Kimberly, Sarah Schaefer, and Camila Zapata. Welcome everyone. I want to thank you very much for your time, for joining us at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is you volunteering your time, and I want to commend you for your courage to run for office and to look forward to being a public servant. It really is an act of gratitude and generosity to the community, and I know that it's not tough. So thank you so much for joining us today to help answer questions for our membership. So from now until 9:35, we're going to focus on the Arcata City Council candidates. We're going to start with a 3-minute introduction from each of you. I'll let you know who's going first. And then we have a handful of questions that we would like to ask you. And our members are, what I'd like our membership to do is either raise your hand or in the chat feature, ask a question. And we will make sure that those questions get answered. So we're going to start with a 3-minute opening. And I apologize, one more thing that I forgot to mention. For our members that are joining on, we are going to extend the call by 15 minutes to talk about appellation regulations. It was very timely and we need to bring this to your attention. So for our members, if you are able to stay on until 10:15, we really would appreciate that. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So with that, I would like to open this up with Stacy Atkins Salazar. Would you introduce yourself, tell us why you're running and what you bring to the table, with a specific emphasis on what you bring to the cannabis industry?
Okay, so I'm running for city council to help our community find common ground as we address the many social, economic, and environmental issues that we're facing. So this is a unique time in our history, and cities across the nation are being asked to redefine themselves. And I want to help the city of Arcata to move forward in a thoughtful, positive, and equitable direction for our community. I was born and raised in Humboldt County. I earned my master's degree in psychology from HSU, and I began my professional career as an associate professor of psychology at College of the Redwoods. I've owned my own Arcata business, the No Limits Dance Academy, for over 20 years. I am a wife and a mother of 3 grown children, and I'm now running for a seat on the Arcata City Council. So my platform is fairly large and ambitious, but we are in a time of change and redefinition, and I want the city of Arcata to take advantage of that and accomplish as much as we possibly can. So for local businesses, that is one of the key points in my platform. Surviving as a business in Humboldt is challenging in the best of circumstances, and add to it a pandemic, and many of our small businesses are closing or hanging on by a thread. So now more than ever, I believe the city of Arcata must listen to the needs of our local business owners and work together with them to help find ways to sustain and boost our economy. And I most certainly include the cannabis industry in that, because I think all of us recognize that this industry is vital to our community and that we have to find a way to help it thrive with all of our other businesses. Law enforcement and mental health. My goal is to help reimagine the way that our community approaches law enforcement by bringing together mental healthcare and law enforcement professionals to make improvements in the way we support and protect our population. And I want to help build on Arcata's environmental success and support our city as we continue to plan for the environmental effects that climate change and sea level rise will have on our coastal town. And we need to continue to find ways to help those who are underserved to have access to quality resources, whether it be good jobs, better health care, education, or quality childcare. There are many people in our community that need help. And last, but most certainly not least, equity and inclusiveness. I want to help ensure that Arcata is a welcoming and inclusive community where everyone is treated with respect. And I realize that these are ambitious goals, but they aren't really just goals. They're actually what I believe our community desperately needs. And with the right leadership, I believe we can build a stronger Arcata. I think something specific that I bring to the table for this particular topic would be my ability to, as a communicator, I do pride myself on being diplomatic and being able to bring people to the table to solve problems. And even though most of us on this call recognize the importance of the cannabis industry in our community, I realize that there's a large portion of our population that doesn't. So I'm here to try to bridge that gap.
Thank you so much, Stacy. And I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So Nick Matthews, you're up next.
Well, good morning. My name is Nick Matthews, and I am running for city council. I moved to Humboldt County in 1987 and went to HSU in the wildlife program. I did that for until I moved on and bought my store, Pacific Paradise, which is in downtown Arcata, and it is a smoke shop. So I have been entrenched in the cannabis thing for the past 24 years. In 2018, I realized that I needed to change it a little bit. There was a lot of different shops like mine in town. And so I decided to go after my cannabis permits for retail sales at the store. I was able to acquire those, the very first person in Arcata to do so. So our store was number one there. And then went ahead and did that. And I decided this year to go ahead, and the pandemic hit and different things, and I had to stay on with the kids a lot and so forth. And so I went ahead and sold the controlling interest of the store to a couple that I really like a lot. They're great people. At that point, I decided, well, I go ahead, and I've worked with Arcata Main Street for years on the Arcata Plaza, doing different events like the Oyster Festival and Season of Wonder and Lights and Arts Arcata and all those types of things. So I decided, well, I've always wanted to go into the city council. I'll go ahead and run for city council and see if I can get a little deeper into what's going on here in Arcata. So.
Perfect.
That's what I bring to the cannabis industry. I have years of experience with it, and getting the permits in themselves took me 2 years. So I have been entrenched in it for a long time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome.
Orion, would you let us know why you're running for office, what you bring to the table, and specific on the cannabis industry?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Orion, and I was born and raised in Arcata. I've always had my finger on sort of the pulse of the local scene. I've traveled extensively through the county to all the different cities, recognize the importance of listening to those who came before.
You're running for city council in Arcata.
Additionally, respect for Indigenous voices and marginalized voices are central to my value of an intentional inclusion of all by all. I believe in people over profits. That's probably the biggest main point of my campaign. I take pride in the fact that most of my employment history has been local, so I feel like I really do understand the local scene quite well. And local is a defining element of my character. I've had 10 years of experience in the gardening industry. I was never actually involved in the cannabis industry, but it was always running parallel because I was interested in growing food. I worked for multiple grow shops and gained a lot of insight into how the industry actually works from a technical point of view. And I've done quite a bit of a lot of community work in Arcata. The skate park was actually one of my big accomplishments. I was on the skate park committee when I was 15 years old and actually helped that get it built, raised tens of thousands of dollars myself for that. I graduated from Humboldt with a degree in ethnomusicology and have traveled the world, and that has definitely shaped who I am and my values today. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And now over to Sarah Schaefer.
Hi folks, I'm Sarah Schaefer and I'm running for Arcata City Council, obviously. I'm running because I am committed to this community and I really just want to give back to the city that has really given me so much. And I really want to represent the next generation of leaders in Arcata. And we are really at a crossroads in a time of change, not only in our national politics, but in local politics as well. And I really just want to be a voice for groups that haven't always been heard in Arcata politics. And I have always been very passionate about politics and volunteer service and everything like that. And so as the wave of 2020 kind of set in, it seemed like the ideal time to really get active. I am born and raised in Arcata. I am a product of Arcata's school systems. I did leave and went to college in Portland, Oregon, and received my degree in history, but came back here and received my teaching credential from HSU and have been a high school history teacher for the last 6 years. And so that being said, really history informs a lot of what I do personally and politically, and especially the history of this area, informing a lot of what I do. But also, like many folks in Humboldt County, I have worked in the cannabis industry and I know a lot of people from the industry and have been kind of involved in that, especially since I, through my college years and since I returned to Humboldt County. And my policies regarding cannabis are definitely shaped by my upbringing here locally and kind of the positive culture that really surrounds cannabis locally. And also just multiple conversations that I've had with people who work in the industry, whether that be all the way from farms to manufacturing, labs, packaging, sales. I've talked to a lot of people who work over in the Innovation Center and also many folks who work in local dispensaries. And so really, just practically talking to everybody in every aspect of this industry to kind of discuss what they think the future of cannabis is in this county. And so really, I just see it mostly as looking at how can this business grow and looking at all of the innovative ideas that can come to play in basically making more jobs for people here, because as timber and fishing industries have died out, we're at a crossroads where a new industrial industry really needs to rise up. And the history of Humboldt County really lends itself to being able to offer that here. It's important to recognize that it is also a successful business and definitely capitalize on that. And as more states are legalizing marijuana and the popularity of consuming cannabis is becoming less taboo, it's essential for especially this legendary area to kind of embrace that idea of cultivation and, pick up on every step of the supply chain as well. I also really see an opportunity for the future of cannabis-based tourism here and having the opportunity to take off, especially in Arcata. And the cultivation business district really is one of a kind, state of the art, that along with the breathtaking scenery of Humboldt County and all of the beautiful farms that are located in our hills and mountains. I mean, it is a destination for people that are, fully love cannabis and want to, see how it's made, because we have that with breweries and microbreweries and all that. So why can't we have it with cannabis? And so working on really making that a possibility in Humboldt County. Also supportive of the idea of on-site consumption, letting our dispensaries have more diversity in that way. And I see you putting your hand up, but so thank you. And I'm looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Kimberly White, you are up. Would you tell us why you're running and what you bring to the table specific for the cannabis industry?
So I came here, like many, to go to HSU, and I actually specifically chose HSU because of the cannabis culture. I received my master's in sociology with an emphasis in affordable housing and race and ethnic relations. But I became very interested in the sociology of cannabis. And to that end, I ended up working for Connor Hawkins at Humboldt Patient Resource Center for about 6 years. During the time where it was, we were always concerned about raids. So although, it was an accepted industry in Arcata, of course, we had all of the state and federal guidelines also that we were enmeshed in. So my daughter actually was her first 2 years of life was in the cannabis center. I actually worked as a liaison for the hospice patients. And so she brought a lot of joy to those folks as we did intakes um, and helped these folks with pain management and going through chemotherapy. Um, I'm very involved in my community with regards to volunteerism. And so I'm on a couple boards. I'm involved in a local charter school. I'm on a housing board, and I'm currently a planning commissioner. As a planning commissioner, of course, I've been involved in the Cannabis Innovation Zone. I recently voted to increase the cap for what we currently have in the cannabis with regards to distribution. Um, what else can I say? I am very adamant about um, how we can take ecotourism with the cannabis culture and merge those two together as we come out of COVID. We really do need to capitalize on the Humboldt brand. And I don't feel like we need to lose traction now. I'm pretty excited about the new Senate Bill 67. I think that's going to really help Humboldt County in, we've always been known worldwide actually with the Humboldt brand, but this will be an opportunity, like champagne is from France. Well, we're going to have Humboldt County out there as, this is what we do here. And it will also give us an opportunity to, if it's, they're not, nobody's going to be able to take our Humboldt brand. So I feel like that's a huge success for our industry. My platform right now is pretty broad like the others. Is that it? I don't feel like I said anything.
That was great. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Today, I'm not away.
No worries. Cami Zapata.
First off, thank you for this opportunity. I work within government reimbursement in the healthcare industry, and I also volunteer my time as a board member for the nonprofit Zero Waste Humboldt. And I want to give back to my community with a higher level of commitment and engagement as a city council member this upcoming fall. I have been speaking with figureheads in the community for the past year, looking into what needed to be done and learned in order to move forward with this endeavor. And I'm really excited about this process. We have difficult years ahead of us with the need for economic recovery, the evident realities of climate change occurring all around us, and a need for the dialogue on glaring social inequalities that have gone unaddressed. My campaign is centered on economic recovery, social equity for all citizens, and a focus on environmentally beneficial policies for our community. As for cannabis, I was fortunate enough to be able to discuss the cannabis industry while attending HSU receiving my business degree. A lot of our discussion throughout many of the classes overlapped into the cannabis industry regarding expansion, legalization, marketing, and the future of cannabis in the area, considering it was such a large industry, even before legalization. I always found it fascinating and took any educational platform to study its potential future further. I attended a lot of the city council meetings regarding the zoning in the industrial areas while still in college at HSU, and watched friends who had properties transition to cannabis cultivation zones, as well as watched many of my friends start cannabis related businesses, and including helping some of my farmer friends navigate the paperwork side towards legalization and compliance within the state after college. My work with Zero Waste has allowed me to talk to cultivators, distributors, retail stores, and the like throughout the lens of making the industry more efficient and supporting it while trying to mitigate waste stream. I fully support this industry and its growth within our community, and I think that the city of Arcata can do more for its future. If elected, I will work toward helping to create a platform where all members of community have a voice and are accounted for.
Thank you so much, Cami. So I'm going to ask another question. I think we're going to go in reverse order. Right, we just had a, kind of a 30,000-foot view of, why you're running and what your policies may be, but let's see if we can drill down. What is one specific policy that you would like to implement on a city-based policy? So this is typically land use permitting or taxation or social support programs that you would like to see implement, or what is something that a policy that you think needs to be amended or fixed? So with that, Cami, if I can toss it to you, and I'm going to give you guys 90 seconds.
I really think that some of the red tape around structures, outlying structures being converted to additional housing units needs to be looked at. I think that it should be on a case-by-case basis because we need more housing in this community and there are a lot more people that want to live here. And we do have potential for garage conversions and things like that. I would like to have it more of a discussion around it as opposed to just red tape and inaccessibility.
Awesome. And I will say and ask you, Cami, if you want to, for cannabis specific policies that you would implement or change.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. I might not have been clear enough.
All right, I apologize. Let me backtrack. Cannabis related, I think that it's a little unfair based on the size of some of the businesses that are trying to start. I think that encouragement towards any, whether it's cultivation, retail, any of the platforms that cannabis occurs business-wise within our community, I think that some of the fees can be very exorbitant and out of reach for some of the smaller businesses that want to start up, apothecaries and different things like that. And I think that those should be matched to scale somehow. I don't actually know exactly how. I haven't gotten that far into this, but I think that they should be a case-to-case basis.
Perfect. And now we can go over to Kimberly White. What are specific cannabis policies that you would either implement or amend in Arcata?
So I feel
seconds.
like right now we have COVID, and right now cannabis is excluded from some of the all of the CARES Act and other safety nets that the rest of our community qualifies for. So, I feel like we need to set up some kind of program within Arcata to create a safety net for for these farmers and cannabis industry. We've had all these recent fires that also has greatly affected the cannabis industry. So a specific fund, long before the legalization of marijuana, the cannabis industry has held up Arcata and Humboldt County. And I feel like it's time that we pull together and help. When the logging industry collapsed, it was the legacy farmers that came and created money during these tough economic times. So business loans, more grant opportunities, some relief programs. We need to reinvest in the cannabis industry. And as Camilla had pointed out, we also need to get rid of a lot of the red tape. Any excise tax that we may increase, I feel like definitely needs to go right back in to reinvestment so that we can further the cannabis industry because, as I said before, this isn't the time to lose traction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sarah, what are specific city-based policies you would implement or change? 90 seconds.
Yeah, just to start off, I definitely agree with what Camilla and Kimberly are both saying. I'm definitely opposed to any additional excise taxes that would be placed on marijuana, unless, of course, I would like to possibly see an incentive for purchasing of local products, whether that be placing a tax on products that are imported, not created in this area. But but also in the idea of kind of getting rid of some of those hurdles of the permitting and the extremely high prices of permitting. Because if we really overexploit this industry, because yes, we can see that it is making money, and by taxing it, revenue will be going back into the city, and by taxing these businesses and making them jump over these hurdles to permits, it seems, yes, you can make money off of that, but also by doing that, we are basically driving business away to a place where they can more easily operate with less oversight and less taxes from the city. And so I think that, easing up on a lot of those regulations would be very beneficial to the economic growth of this industry and of our community as a whole, because it really does, put jobs. People come here for jobs, people stay for these jobs. They purchase property locally, and they bring their dollars back into our local business. So I think it's really important to not overexploit through taxation and through permitting on our business. Also, the other policy that I'm highly supportive of is on-site consumption. I know Eureka has already begun to move forward on approving places for on-site consumption, and I think Arcata needs to follow suit with that. And I think with the tourism, it all fits nicely together. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Orion, what are specific city-based policies you would either change or implement? 90 seconds.
Well, I think everyone else has pretty much said it better than I could. I definitely don't agree with an excess tax as long as cannabis businesses are legally operating just like any other business in the state of California. I think that they should all be taxed the same. I think that definitely removing fees or lowering fees, making it easier for cannabis businesses to move in would be better. I think what the city could really do, and what I would really push for, is a citywide promotional campaign of the Humboldt brand that really does push the products that are being made locally, and attempt to not only bring light to them here and show that we have something good going here, but also to promote those throughout the state and throughout the country a little bit better than we are doing now. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Orion. And over to Stacy.
The other candidates have done a great job of covering things, and I'm definitely in step with a lot of what has been said. I think the main thing for me is that we made this legal, and so it should also be profitable. If we want people to buy their products from legal sources, then it should be affordable, and there should be less, and similar standards for other businesses. I don't think that we should dump too much on the cannabis industry as far as extra taxes and such. It is important to our economy, and I think our community knows that, and so we should treat it as such, as a valuable asset to our community.
Awesome, thank you. And Nick Matthews, I almost went out of order and missed you. What are specific policies that you would implement or amend?
Really, where can I start? I honestly have been entrenched in this for so long. First of all, permitting. Permitting took me forever and a day to get those permits. And I really felt that the city of Arcata, they lagged way too long on doing that. It was passed in 2016, and I wasn't even able to get my permits until 2019. So it took 3 years after that policy was passed by the voters for me to even get a permit, which was the very first one issued into Arcata after the passment in 2016. So the permitting fee process is way too long. Also, I feel that the fees that I paid for it were entirely too high. It was one thing after another, zoning fees. I mean, one fee after another. It seemed extensive to me. As far as consumption and businesses go, it's mandatory. We have to have that. Eureka, like they said, has passed that. It hasn't really been implemented out there, I don't believe yet. But in Arcata, I would have loved to have had consumption. And one of the things that they had me do for the state of California, at least, was to put in a ventilation system at my store so that consumption, well, they said at the time it was to alleviate the odor of the cannabis. But in California, all the cannabis containers are sealed. So there really isn't even a whole lot of odor, even in my storage room. There wasn't hardly any at all. And so I felt, well, let's take that now and move forward with consumption, because it works perfect to have consumption here in my business. And the city needs to move on that. We need to basically get tourism in here. And like they said, check out different factories, different cultivators, different things. I thought would be great to appeal to, like the cruise ships that come in here every once in a while, and get them off and go into different areas in Eureka or Arcata and check out the dispensaries. Consumption is mandatory for that. Also, I feel that, okay, I could go for a while on that. As you can tell.
Thank you so much. So we have
You're welcome.
only 4 minutes remaining. I do want to open this up to at least one question from our membership, and I might see if I can call on a specific Arcata cannabis business. Gillian Levy's on here. Gillian, if you're listening, she is a Arcata Innovation Zone based business. Do you have any specific questions for these candidates or other Arcata cannabis businesses if Gillian's not on?
I have to apologize, you guys. I just got my wisdom teeth pulled out yesterday, and I'm kind of doped up, so I'm not going to ask any questions right now. But I will. I'm definitely listening in on everything here. So my apologies about that.
Thank you for letting me put you on the spot. And I will then hop over to Andeline's questions. Andeline wrote, a few candidates mentioned tourism. How are you going to include permitted and licensed farms support in the sense of giving farm recognition? It's almost impossible for rural farms to implement tourism in their businesses. How are we going to include local farms in the tourism platform? And with that, I will, for 1 minute, go over to Stacy.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. I don't have a specific answer for that, but what I would do is reach out to the farmers to ask them, how can we include you? Because I feel like they would be the ones that would have the ideas. So again, that's just my style of leadership. If I'm not really 100% sure of something, or even when I am, to reach out to people that are in that situation for their input. So I would definitely reach out to the farmers.
Awesome. Orion, how would you integrate farms into tourism in Arcata?
Well, that question kind of ties directly into my last answer, which was that I think that a citywide promotional campaign would be the answer to that. I think that we should treat it like the wine industry. You know, have a destination where you go and you can consume there, and it would be sort of a retreat. And then of course you can promote that in a number of different ways through social media, whatever you want. But the point being is that you try to make those farms destination points and you draw people there. And yeah, and I think that that can definitely be done through just promotion. So
awesome, thank you. I am going to reduce this just by a little bit in the interest of time and I apologize, 30-second answers. So Nick, how would you integrate farms and tourism in the city of Arcata? 30 seconds.
Okay, sorry.
On the ball.
What we've done is show and sells a lot of those, you know. So what we do is we have the different farms and companies come into our store and they sit down with the table and they show their products to the customers and they showcase what they can do at their particular farms or locations. As far as tourism goes, the farms are really remotely located. And so it's difficult to go and do like a round of different farms in one day because they are in different areas. But what you can do is maybe set up a showcase in, like, you know, the community center or something like that, where they all show up together and they showcase their products on a larger scale where people can go through, very much like in Napa or something of that nature, and see the different farms, their different products. There's so many different fun names for cannabis strains anymore that I think a lot of tourists will get a laugh out of that. The wedding cake, obviously, I just got married, and so I thought, you know, we went through a ton of wedding cake at my store. I can't even tell you how much.
Awesome.
I can keep going if you want me to, but
Thanks so
time's
much.
up.
Thanks so much, Nick. Kimberly, in 30 seconds, I apologize.
No worries. I think that maybe we could do some interactive video tours, like Nick was saying. We would obviously want to showcase this, and also, just to piggyback what Stacy said, is I feel like ask the people involved directly. So maybe put out some survey questionnaires to the farmers, and then go ahead and see what the common denominator is and move forward with that.
Thank you. And Sarah.
Yeah, 30 seconds for this really great question is
I know.
but I really like the idea of perhaps implementing, and it wouldn't maybe be weekly like Arcata's farmers market is, but a cannabis farmers market of sorts, perhaps monthly, and also creating perhaps a space within Arcata where those kind of events could happen that is permitted and that is acceptable, having an event space for these, you know, businesses to be able to come down from the hill and show their products and get involved and directly talk to consumers. Or also, I mean, if farms are okay with it, yeah, like an ecotourism kind of field trip tour that you could hire to, you know, go see it made, you know. But that farmers market idea is one that I enjoy.
Awesome. Camila, last questions for you.
I think this is a great question, and one I've poked my head around, but then didn't think was feasible or wanted, and I'm glad that it's coming up now. I love the event space idea that Sarah just shared. I think that that's a great idea, the farmers market style, to incorporate an introduction and like a platform for people to get to know one another and to build interest in the area. I also think designing some sort of website in which someone goes around, communicates with all the farmers, takes photos, has it kind of like an Airbnb style where you get to see the farms and entice you more.
Awesome. I want to say thank you to all of the candidates, and thank you to our members for listening in. We do need to move over to the Eureka candidates. If you guys have in your background your website addresses so people know how to get in touch. Remember to cast your ballots and vote. This is really important, and there's some amazing people running for office. So with that, I'd like to thank the Arcata people, and we're going to move over to Eureka. Okay. So today we are joined by Lisa Welch, Matthew Owen, good morning, Eddie Alexander Morgan, and Katie Moulton. And so with that, I'm going to actually tighten this up to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That way we can get to a handful more questions. And Lisa, if we can open it up with you, would you please introduce yourself, why you're running, and what you're bringing to the table with a specific emphasis on the cannabis industry?
Absolutely.
30 seconds.
Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to meet with this group. I'm Liza Welsh. I'm running for Ward 4 for the Eureka City Council. I'm a progressive Democrat endorsed by the Democratic Party, Central Labor Council, a few different union groups, including my own union, AFSCME, and the North Coast People's Alliance. I hold a master's degree in public policy from Mills College, which is in Oakland, California. Public policy encompasses studies of urban and regional planning, politics, and policy analysis, which is the evaluation of policy alternatives according to various predetermined criteria so that we can pick the best options. And throughout my journey from community college through to grad school, I was working full-time to support myself. And I was on the board of various student organizations, including the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, SSDP. One of the jobs I had was in a grow shop selling the lights and fans in Berkeley, California. I also worked for the Anthony Law Group while I was a graduate student. James Anthony is a cannabis attorney in Oakland, California. So I was a policy analyst, and I also wrote permit applications. And then after I graduated, I wanted to come back to Humboldt County and be close to my family, especially my grandparents as they're getting older. And so I took a job with the County of Humboldt as a land use planner. and ended up becoming a cannabis planner. So as a cannabis planner, I work with permit applicants to evaluate their proposals, troubleshoot them to make sure they comply with all the areas of the cannabis ordinance, the general plan, the zoning code, and CEQA. I work with members of the public to troubleshoot their concerns around the applications and try to come to solutions so that, you know, they won't just show up and speak against the project. Often we can troubleshoot those in the background, and that's always my goal. And then also work with various state, federal, local, and tribal agencies to be sure that the proposals comply with the areas of law that they oversee. I was disappointed that Mr. Bauer decided not to join us today, as I would have liked to hear what he has to say.
Me too.
Um,
And so I'm gonna, thank you, Liza. Matthew Owen, would you please introduce yourself? What do you bring to the table? Why are you running for office, and specific on the cannabis industry?
Well, first I'd like to thank the Humboldt County Growers Association for inviting us here. I'm Matthew Owen. I'm running for Eureka City Council. Big thing I bring to the table is I bring people together. I'm going to tell you a story. 6 years ago, as program director of Rotary Club of Eureka, I brought cannabis to the Rotary Club. Now, you're looking at me rolling your head going, well, what's the big deal? In 2014, this was a big deal. We brought in a local grower, the Humboldt County Sheriff, the Humboldt County District Attorney, and a cannabis consultant. And if any of you know the kind of the history of cannabis, that was kind of the outgrowth of cannabis becoming legal in Humboldt County. And I was really proud to bring that together. And many of you probably even heard about this meeting back then. I'd like to continue seeing the legal cannabis industry grow. Just toured a facility here that employs 90 people here in Eureka, all legal, W-2 pay stubs. More than better, welcome to the club, and I'd like to see the cannabis industry truly grow in Humboldt County and especially in Eureka. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Eddie Morgan.
Well, thank you. I'd first like to thank the Humboldt Growers Association for hosting the forum. My name is Eddie Morgan. I'm running for Ward 4. I've lived in Eureka for over 22 years. I'm married to Sue McIntyre for over 24 years. And I own a brick and mortar business in Old Town Eureka. Does the sound okay? As a small business owner, I own a small business on the 2nd Street. As a small business owner myself, I fully support the legal cannabis industry. You can read my answers that I have that was on the questionnaire for HCGA and posted on the website. I'd like to update this by sharing some thoughts that I've recently had taking a tour with Papa Berkeley facility in Eureka. First off, I really appreciate Papa and Berkeley reached out to invite us to do a tour. And I have to say, Michael is an excellent tour guide. My major takeaways from the experience are as follows. I'm impressed by the exacting standards used on all the manufacturing processes. For developing industry, the sophistication and technology and management are at a par or supersede or over those exhibited in the wine industry in Napa. The cannabis industry is developing both blue collar and white collar jobs in the community. The cannabis business participating in community events, donating to nonprofits, and engaging in civil organizations like going to the Rotary Club and things like that. I very much appreciate that. Now that the industry is growing, the City of Eureka can help review the current guidelines, simplifying the permitting process and reviewing safeguards to determine which are the need and which may be eliminated. As a city council member, I would firmly support the growth and development of the locally grown cannabis industry and support it very much. I think what I bring to the table is I have time. I own my own business. So I have time to read the reports and do things like that. I have a master's in public health administration, and I have a lot of ties to the community from all sectors of the community. With that, I'm open to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. We will move over to Katie Moulton, Ward 2. Katie, why are you running? Introduce yourself. Why are you running, and what do you bring to the table, cannabis specific? 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Hi, my name is Katie Moulton. You might know me as Katie, Texas. I have served this community for over 15 years through a variety of arts, culture, and educational projects. As the Queen Professor President of the Kinetic Universe, I've helped to bring tens of thousands of people and millions of dollars into our area in a way that celebrates the unique parts of Humboldt, our culture, our people, our beautiful backyard. As the director of North Star Quest Camp and the manager of the Mars Project at the Ink People, I have empowered hundreds of local youth to find their voice. As the artistic director of the Ink People, I have consulted for dozens of nonprofit projects, fortifying the grassroots efforts of artists, teachers, and educators. The cannabis industry has always played a part in all of my work. When I was a health outreach worker with the Raven Project, the kids that I was helping get off the streets could find work there when they couldn't find work. I think that it's a vital, important part of the local economy, and I want to do everything I can to make sure that Humboldt brand stays the Humboldt brand, and that this becomes the destination for people who want to find boutique cannabis, who want to find a destigmatized, beautiful version of the world that encompasses. And I want to make sure that all of those great jobs that are being created are good jobs and that are protecting the people who work them. I'd also like to include in my opening statement, as I usually do, that we are on occupied WIOT land, and I want to acknowledge that everything we are doing is in there. I'm a compassionate, creative, do-gooder nerd, and I want to help.
Love that. Thank you. So we're going to go back over to another question that we asked the Arcata candidates. Cannabis is but one sector within this industry and within this regional economy, but it's an important sector. We have a handful of land use policies, taxation, social support, permitting, building issues that affect the industry. What are specific cannabis policies that you would either implement or amend in the city of Eureka? And with that, I will go back to Liza.
Thank you.
And we're gonna, I apologize, we're gonna give 90 seconds. Thank you.
It's difficult to pick just one.
Or two.
Okay, I'll go with two. First, I think increasing staffing levels in the planning and building department in Eureka would help to ensure that permits are processed more quickly. They have only like 1 or 2 building inspectors and 1 or 2 plan checkers. That slows down building permits a lot. I feel that, frankly, we have the same problem in the county of not having nearly enough staff for the amount of work. And this industry is important, so we need to have the staff levels necessary to do the best job that we can. And then secondly, I think that Eureka should establish a processing license and should designate. So basically, when the new zoning code came in, some areas that were previously considered commercial services spaces were eliminated. But I think that processing right now, a lot of people have to get like a non-volatile extraction license in order to do that. And we should have a standalone processing license that could occur in some of those commercial spaces, formerly commercial spaces. This is not a manufacturing process. For those who don't know, processing is essentially like the bucking and the trimming. So this generates a lot of jobs. It is not that impactful on surrounding businesses. It has employees that go out and visit other businesses with foot traffic. I would like to see a processing license and a zoning structure that supports that.
Thank you so much, Liza. Matthew Owen, what are specific policies that you'd either implement or amend?
Well, one thing I'd like to see done is the streamlining of the permitting process. A gentleman earlier said it took 2 years to get his cannabis permit, and that's just not acceptable. To me, 2 months is too long. So we need to do whatever we can to streamline that process. 2, I'd like to see banking, probably the most important thing for the cannabis community, especially here in Humboldt County, reaching out to local state chartered credit unions to offer banking services to the cannabis industry. And finally, I'd like to see community. I'd like to see the community open their arms to the cannabis community and also the cannabis community getting involved in our local community. So those are the three things that I'm going to be pushing if elected to Eureka City Council. Thank you.
Eddie, specific policies that you'd either implement or amend on a city level. And you're muted.
I support the ideas that the other candidates had. And I think one of the things that we can do is also look back at some of the regulations that have already been put in place. We're talking about having bagging and having ventilations. There's a lot of details in the current regulations, or having double door for security where you only need one. So streamlining the process, I think, is extremely important. The other thing is banking. Totally support that. I think that's one of the things that we can support to assist the industry. And I think the cannabis industry is like any other industry. We need to support it like we support any business and make the rules simple. I would be tracking how long it takes to do the certificates and things like that, and assist in making those shorter, because that kills business. I know that as a local business owner.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Katie, specific policies that you would implement or amend on a city level.
Some great ideas coming around in here. Obviously, anything that increases efficiency in the permitting process would be really helpful to encourage local businesses to grow on this industry. If staffing in the permitting office is a way to do that, then awesome, even more jobs. Permitting for processing seems like a no-brainer. I would do probably what I would do with most things, which is contact people inside of the industry and see what it is that your priorities are. I think that one thing specifically I can think of we could do, which I don't know if it's a policy, which is to include cannabis in the city's outside marketing. Right now, Eureka is concentrating most of our marketing efforts internally to kind of build resilience. But when we start advertising for tourism again, there should be a piece of that that talks about the Napa Valley of cannabis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. With that, I'd like to open it up. We've got 7 minutes remaining. If there is a good question or maybe a bad question from our membership, I see Michael Kraft on here from Papa and Barkley. Do you have a specific question for the candidates? And anybody is allowed to raise their hand on this, but calling out a few people specifically.
You didn't give me a heads up, Madeline. Let me think here for a second. What would you like to see more of in the cannabis industry? What kinds of operations? What would you like to see expand?
Awesome, awesome. With that, we will start with Eddie, raised his hand first.
I think, owning a local business and having the support of the community of shopping local helps a lot. I think right now the biggest competition to the legal cannabis industry is the illegal industry, and making people aware of the choices that they have. And that would be one thing I would support. And I think it's very important to distinguish that, because there's a lot of responsible people that use cannabis, and I think they want to make the right choice and support the right people when they buy their product.
Awesome, thank you. Katie, what are things that you would like to see expanded within the cannabis industry in Eureka?
I think that having on-site consumption and having more zoning for processing would provide more blue collar and sort of bottom tier jobs, sort of beginning jobs. And I'd like to see that more jobs for young people, more jobs for people of color, more jobs for the people in my neighborhood. And I think that the cannabis industry has an opportunity through developing different retail places to increase our walkability and our appeal to tourists.
Awesome. Matthew Owen.
Get off mute there. Hi, currently the city of Eureka has over 70 licensed cannabis businesses within the city boundaries. I'd like to see that double the next year. The other thing I'd like to see is bed and breakfasts. We have all these Victorian inns. Everyone keeps talking about Napa Valley. Why don't we find out a way to get something permitted where it become legal to come up to Humboldt County, stay at a Victorian home, and then be able to sample some of the great Humboldt cannabis products we have available here. But in the meantime, the manufacturing businesses probably dominates the city of Eureka because they do not have an excise tax. So I'd like to see that 70 businesses in the next year grow to 140 cannabis manufacturing businesses.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. And finally, Liza.
So in addition to the plant touching support facilities like distributors, manufacturers, and testing, which I agree with Matthew, I would like to see those double or even triple. I want to see a growth in kind of ancillary businesses, things like cannabis lifestyle brands, fashion, cannabis technology. I think we have an opportunity for kind of that small tech here. And then also I do agree that on-site consumption is a no-brainer, whether it's, you know, through a dispensary or through something like a bed and breakfast. It would be great for tourism. It's great for folks who live in apartments or public housing and can't necessarily consume even for medical purposes at their home, to have some place to go where they can be in a social environment and, you know, sample some of the best cannabis in the world that's grown right here in Humboldt County. I know that we've started that path in terms of permitting. I am disappointed that none have sprung up yet, but then again, it is COVID. So perhaps that has put a slowdown on things. I'm excited to see it happen though. Anything that gets people out walking in the streets, visiting our local businesses, I'm for it. And I want cannabis to be part of the complete picture of our economic recovery here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liza. I really want to thank all of the candidates who joined us today. I know that this is a very consolidated kind of Q&A. I want to encourage our membership to check out the posts that we've been circulating on our website. All of the candidates that were here today answered a series of questions for you to look at. For everybody that's still on here, if you want to send a link to your campaign website, or any way for people to get in touch with you specifically between now and the election, I encourage you to. And, you know, again, just thank you for your willingness to step up as public servants. And I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, members, for tuning in to learn more about our local elections. And with that, I'm going to stop recording.